ES made big trend moves in both directions last week, but can it get back to all-time highs, or is there more downside coming? Here's how I'll be trading it this week. This was a fairly difficult day trading week for ES, where we started off the week really from last Friday with this short squeeze, just a vertical rally with every dip bought, which is difficult because shorts are getting run over and there's very little new long entries available without any significant pullback. So, the early part of the week saw this just extreme strength to the upside, shorts getting run over, every dip bought, and then we fall into balance in the middle of the week. We finally kind of stall into 69.02, which really was the kind of ceiling that started some of the correction last week, so still posed a problem this week. We rallied directly 250 points back into 69.02, kind of form a little low time frame balance between 68.50 and 69.02, and then once 68.50 failed, that low time frame demand zone fails. Now we go into liquidation mode. Longs are unwinding. We're retracing this rally that we've made all week, and now we have this aggressive downtrend. So, fairly difficult to find new entries. Generally, you probably wanted to be short underneath 68.50, but just a very aggressive sell-off. No real bounces or back tests to kind of reload short. So really difficult to find new opportunities in this mode where we just have a vertical rally, a little bit of base structure underneath 69.02, 68.50 fails, and then we just completely go into the inverse. Every bounce is sold, and we get almost all the way, the full retrace of the rally, almost into the prior week low and last Friday low. Finally, on Friday morning, we get a little short-term capitulation into 66.72, which holds. Then we reclaim 67.02 for another short covering squeeze into the weekly close on Friday. There were a few good long opportunities last week. This failed breakdown of 67.96, really one of the few true pullbacks that we got, put in a failed breakdown of 67.96, which allowed us for that kind of next leg up into 68.50 and above. And then again, a little test underneath 68.50, the reclaim of 68.50, another long opportunity to get long for that final move into 69.02, and then a little bit of balance and base structure above 68.50 middle of the week there. Shorts, again, that 69.02 offered several opportunities for shorts. That was a pretty strong supply from last week that defended again, and then re-offered here 68.93 for that move into 68.50. And then the failure of 68.50 was a really nice short opportunity, and there was one back test of 68.50, which really was the best opportunity to be positioned short. The back test of 68.50, which was rejected, then you just hold runners really for this trend move, and that was some of the better short entries there, and much harder to kind of reload shorts after that point. Looking ahead to next week, if we zoom out, the structure is objectively neutral for now, as we've established a large range underneath all-time highs and lower time frame between the 68.50 supply zone and this trend line of higher lows. So we can't really have too strong of a directional bias until one side breaks with continuation. Now 67.96 will be an important pivot in the middle of this range, and acceptance above 67.96 generally favors continuation up to 68.50. Now this is going to be a key supply area for sellers to defend. If buyers are able to reclaim 68.50, then shorts would be offsides, and we're probably headed back to all-time highs. And then on the other side, if this trend line fails and we fail the Friday low at 66.70, that's the trigger for continuation to the downside, which would target 65.94 and 65.52. So this week, sellers' goal would be to defend 68.50 and hold underneath 67.51 to test the prior week lows, and the failure of the trend line would target that next sell-off mode. As always, it's best to observe the price action around these pivots, not focus on guessing where we're headed, but let price tell us what it wants to do. As far as the top trade setups for next week, on the long side, watch 67.02 to hold on any back test. This was the squeeze point from Friday where you would expect buyers to step in on the first back test for a bounce. And as always, watch for a failed breakdown of the Friday low and prior week low. But if this this fails to reclaim the trend line and 6702 afterwards, just understand that we are likely headed lower. Now 6796 is also going to be important, so acceptance above 6796 could provide for a long entry for that rotation back into 6850 supply. On the short side, that move into 6850, that will be the top short setup. The back test looking for a rejection at that supply zone, or any failed spikes above that fail back below would be good short entries for rotation back into 6796 and 6751. Also, if we do end up failing that trend line or reoffering the trend line on a back test and failing underneath the prior week low, you can look to be short for that next leg down into 65.94. Overall, as long as we're trading inside the prior week range, it should provide good two-way trading opportunities, as well as the return of inflation and job data potentially along with Nvidia earnings should provide some catalysts in either direction. So don't focus too much on predicting up or down, just react to the price action at these key areas. That's how I'll be trading ES this week. If you would like to trade live with real pros every day, join us at Trade with Insight.